Oh, hey there. Yeah, we'll get to this in just a second. Not a Twin Peaks throwback. It's a whole different thing. Hey, Michael Bryant here, Justice Serve TV. Linda Kenny Baden is on assignment. So, what's the latest with Karen Reed in the civil case? We know it's never going to trial. So, what's happening now during the discovery and run up? That's really all that matters. And Kelsey Fitzsimmons, I got an update for you on that too.
Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
Love you, Linda.
Where is justice? Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and down will I lead the way, hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
Alrighty, let me first apologize. A little cash today. You know how you set up your schedule and you've got, I'm going to do this. I got to send some discovery to Delta Airlines, and I got to make sure I do this. And then something happens, kind of throw the schedule off. What happened today to throw the schedule off was this. Well, this is part of it. Tree came down, a lot of wind here in the Northeast, and just right across the driveway. So I had to clean that up, chop that baby up. I did a little short about it when I was updating what's happening tonight. And mentioned that this tree had to be cleaned up, so it threw my schedule all off. Didn't have time to get purdy for you, so you got what you got here. You're stuck with this. Look, I just noticed this. I get hats all the time. I found this up in the attic when we were doing some searching during the holiday for embarrassing old videos of family members, and I said, "Oh, I haven't seen this hat in a while." This was from a golf course in Jamaica called the White Witch. And I just thought, this seems to be appropriate considering the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case and Judge McCarthy naming. I think I've called her the White Witch more than once. Anyway, so let's talk about the tree for just a second before we move on to much more important things. So I had to cut down, clean up this little tree. It had fallen down. I'd seen it. It was starting. I could tell it was going. It was dying. We have all kinds of trees around here. We got maple, we got oak, we got your ash, we got cedar. And somebody looking at the video said, "That's a pine tree." No, it's not a pine tree. It's not a. This is a cedar. And if you don't know that, here, smell it. Can you smell that? Man, cedar. There's people get cedar closets. It's just what is a great smell. Hey, there's a guy on the YouTube. He's smelling a log. Come check this out. It's crazy. So this is cedar, and this will next be seen in the fireplace because it makes great. It's hardwood, makes great firewood. Because the tree had been dead for a while, it's ready to go. I don't have to wait for it to cure up at all. Anyway, so that's my tree story. That cedar, there's such a unique smell, and that's why people put it in closets and cedar chests and all that stuff. Okay, anyway, maybe we should do this. All right. Okay. So the DC bomber, there was a bombing back in 2021 on the eve of, I think it was on January 5th. So on the eve of the January 6th, what that was. Never found the guy. They had all kinds of clues. They thought, well, they finally arrest the guy. Now they're trying to get Brian Cole Jr. released from jail pending his trial. He hasn't even been arraigned yet. So this is total pre-everything detention. And, they had arguments today. I do not think they came to a decision today. I did not have a chance to check in the last hour to find out if he was granted, but I'm playing the odds here. Not a chance in hell. What are the two components of determining whether or not somebody should get out on bail? Danger to the community, right? That's one thing. Flight risk. Well, the guy has evaded capture for 4 years, so maybe it's because he's been attempting to, flee the jurisdiction, and they finally got him. They actually got him he's from Virginia, so he wasn't that far from home. And the other thing is, danger to the community. Do you think putting pipe bombs all around a given community is perhaps a danger to the community? Is that, I don't want to be, too judgmental too early. Obviously, he's innocent until proven guilty. But my guess is he will not get out. If somebody heard that the response from the court is in, and you want to share that, feel free and tell me that I'm dead wrong. But I got to think that he's not getting out. Okay, what else we got here? Oh, Kelsey Fitzsimmons. So yesterday I was talking about my hope that this February 9 trial date would push, because I'm going to be out of the country then working on a couple of things. And it's set for the 9th, of Monday, Tuesday. It's only a 2-day trial. And I'm hearing from my sources that there are some major issues with discovery in this case. I know this will shock you. The Commonwealth has not been providing the discovery requested by Kelsey Fitzsimmons. I guess there's a first for everything. So because of these delays, it makes it more and more likely. I mean, get a calendar. Let me get a calendar here. Don't look now, but day after tomorrow is the 1st of January. So that means we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, basically 5.5 weeks before trial. There's not a chance in hell it's going to be ready, especially if there are these continuing discovery disputes. That in my, of course, strongly worded letter to the court suggesting we push it to accommodate my travel plans. So we'll see. Let's just say my sources are suggesting it's highly likely it is not going to be on that date. And this, do I have one more rip and read? Oh, I do have one more quick one, and then we'll circle back to the discovery issue here, because it's very important. What's happening in the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case, to some degree, bleeds over into what's happening in Karen Reed in terms of procedure and process. The other thing is the MJB, Michael James Bryant lawsuit against the Massachusetts State Police. That they infringed on my First Amendment rights. We are filing some new documents. It's an amended complaint. Got that for you. I'm not going to go over it tonight. We're actually going to do, I'm just riffing here. We're going to do a members only tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll just go through this, talk about the nuances, and we'll get a chance to, this will make perfect sense because tomorrow is New Year's Eve. We'll look back, we'll set the Wayback Machine, Mr. Peabody, go back to April 1st, the day it happened when I had my encounter with the cops and when they also ripped that badge off Mr. Delgado, which is a separate suit that is still mixing in. And then we'll look at the crowd out there during the verdict when I shot that video. None of that happens without this lawsuit being filed. And I'm thanking Mark Randazza and the gang for doing that. They just put my name on the piece of paper, and I'm proud that they did that. Made all the difference in the world. Like, can you imagine what it would have been like with an announced verdict, people outside the buffer zone? It would have been just tragic. What an infringement on the First Amendment right. So that case continues. We'll go over it tomorrow. Let's do that 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as a members only. We'll do it live. A couple of people show up. That's fine. And then we'll re-rack it and maybe even run it later tomorrow night. Maybe do it on the weekend. It is, New Year's Eve. So, and as those of us over about 25 call it amateur night. So, okay. Let me circle back to Kelsey Fitzsimmons just for a second as we launch into the Karen Reed discovery issue. Under the rules, in a criminal matter, you have certain rules you have to follow for discovery, right? Well, if you want to get records from somebody that is not a party to the case, Commonwealth is obviously a party, Kelsey Fitzsimmons is a party. But if you need phone records, if you need other records from some other entity, not the Commonwealth, you've got to subpoena them, right? They haven't even gotten through that stage yet. So we have the defendant asking the Commonwealth for some of the most basic stuff. They've gotten nothing yet. And so we heard in the last hearing certain things were going to be provided. Well, that, hasn't happened yet to the degree that matters. And then you got these secondary subpoenas they're going to need to go out and be complied with. Just think about the case. You're going to want phone records. You're going to want location information, because we're going to want to find out where Justin the alien was and his interaction with the fire department and the police department that seemed to give him some sort of favored nation status. Because I have to believe once we get the stats on how the process normally works, we're going to learn that it isn't normal for the cops who are going to execute on an ex parte application alleging dangerousness, alleging attempts to kill or thoughts about killing a young baby, as well as the mother killing herself, that they don't go, oh, hold on a sec. Mr. Alien, can you come on over? Yeah, it's been about 10 minutes. I think we're going to find that normally you have a CPS, Child Protective Services, or some entity like that comes over when the cops are there and they handle the exchange of the child from the mother's bosom. And then they work it out to whomever that person, in this case, the alien and his parents, are going to take possession of the child. And that sounds bad. Take custody of the child, not possession. Anyway, all of that stuff is going to be critical to this case, because I think we're going to learn lots of stuff that took place in the alien's favor that it just normally doesn't happen unless you got to the inside track, and I believe that he probably did and still does. Okay, so how does that equate to what's happening in the Karen Reed thing that we're going to talk about? This happened yesterday. It was filed about midday. We hinted about it last night. This civil case, again, I keep saying it ain't ever going to see trial. It just, I'd be shocked. I'd want to see it. And as I say, I hope I'm alive when it happens. If it does, I just don't think it's going to happen. As we plod along to that point, and remember, just to bring up speed procedurally, we have the O'Keefe case against Karen Reed, and that's the one we're talking about with this discovery request. And then we have the now removed to federal court civil rights case by Karen Reed against the House defendants, right? Separate animal. At this point, that's just kind of percolating. And obviously, we'll be all over that as the next document drops in that case. This one is an original demand for production of documents made by Karen Reed on the plaintiffs. Let me see if should I pull this up here? Yes. Should we just dive into it? Yes, Michael, let's just dive into it. Okay, well, I'm glad you suggested that. So let's do that. Okay, and again, this was filed yesterday, and it does relate back to the original filing for the request. Let me see if we can just skosh that a little bit more. There we go. Okay, let's just dive in here. Plaintiffs allege that Reed backed her car into John O'Keefe III on January 29. Does any of this ring a bell to you? And so they give basic info. They also allege that Reed created a false narrative that someone else killed Mr. O'Keefe and that the police investigation into his death was corrupt, biased, and designed to deflect attention from the law enforcement officers and their families who were inside the house at 34 Fairview on the night that he died, et cetera, et cetera. I thought I had something up here marked that I was going to mention. Let's see. Okay. Anyway, these are documents produced or that should be produced by Sergeant Sean Goode. Again, this relates similarly to the point that I was making about Fitzsimmons. Sergeant Goode, not a named party in this case, but he is Commonwealth, even though on suspension at the moment, and they want materials from him. As of the date of this filing yesterday, Sergeant Goode has not responded to Reed's subpoena in any manner, and the deadline to do so has long passed. Let's see. I over-highlighted. On November 7, 2025, as part of her attempt to defend against plaintiff's claims by, in part, proving that this same narrative was actually true, Reed served the subpoena on Sergeant Goode at his last known residential address. Footnote alert. True and accurate copies of the subpoena and the related affidavit of service are attached. And we're going to look at that because this setup language does just that, but we want to see, and speculate based on what we think they're looking for. We can get a little hint from some of these requests, right? Let's see. I'm going to pause right here because I'm actually going to look at something here. Hold on. Oh, there we go. I thought I saw something. Okay, hold on. Lynette Martinez, 7318. Thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Don't hold it against me if I just totally racked up some damage on your name there. Joanne Morgan, 7145. I worked with, in North Andover for 26 years at a local restaurant. Most of these guys are relatives or good friends that are on the fire and police department. So, yeah, I mean, that's been my suspicion all along. I just believe that during the course of the discovery and the trial, whenever it happens, we're going to see very specific information. Perhaps, Joanne, you'll be called as a witness since you know all these folks. Ed K. Schmidt, of course, thank you so much, gifting 5 Justice Served memberships. As we understand it, once you're a sub, they get doled out by the overlords at YouTube. And I'm telling you, I don't know who we pissed off over there, but our subs, I guess maybe I should also, at least consider that people don't want to subscribe. But, I'm pushing that aside for the moment. But the numbers are just weird. We talked about the amendment to the lawsuit that I brought against the Massachusetts State Police. That was in late April, because remember the trial, it all started on April 1st, which I kind of thought was ironic, because I thought when this cop was telling me, hey, I've seen you walk by here 5 times, don't do it again, that he was joking. It was April Fool's Day. He wasn't, but that was when they started jury selection. So at that time, we had roughly 9,000 subs. And now here we are, 10 months later, and we're at 33,000. So that's great growth. But if you want to look at the last month or so, it's been like somebody's stepping on the brakes here. And I have we have no idea how this all works. Okay, does anybody? No, nobody knows. So we just keep doing what we're doing, hopefully doing the best we can, and things will continue to move forward. So anyway, with this subpoena now, again, not to a party, they want these documents that relate to anything that the SAJ will have that will help tell the story and support not just their defense, but remember the counter affirmative defense has to be proven by the defendant. So they're allowed to gather information to prove their affirmative defense. They don't get to just sit back and say, good luck proving by a preponderance of the evidence, civil standard, that any of this took place. They've got to come forward with their own evidence if they have an affirmative defense, which they do in this case, which is this whole, I don't want to use the word conspiracy, but that's kind of the word that best fits. The House defendants, let's put it that way. Everybody kept the truth from coming out. Pursuant to subpoena, Sergeant Goode's response was due on November 15th. He has not contacted Reed's counsel through his own counsel or directly, and has not produced any documents. The court should order him to comply. It's the least the court can do, right? And remember, there's always this, sometimes it's codified, sometimes it's not, depending on the jurisdiction. You should reach out to the other side and meet and confer. In California, that's what we call it, meet and confer. That way, when you go to court and the judge says, if you haven't spelled it out like they have in the motion here, hey, you guys worked on this, you talked about it? Oh, no, we haven't, Judge, because I think the other guy's a douchebag and he's not going to answer me anyway, so I didn't even try. Not the answer the court wants. They want to know that you gave it a shot. And if they didn't answer, said no way, no matter what you do, I'm not giving you what you're asking, you got a response, and you need to be able to tell the court that or you look bad. So that's the basic notice. The key here are the exhibits. Dun, dun, dun. So here's the subpoena. I love this. Every jurisdiction has its own little boilerplate set of words for whatever the document is, whatever the request is. Apparently in Massachusetts, when you're filing a subpoena, you say, greetings. Greetings, everyone. Good to have you along. Greetings. Yes, I like that. Greetings. You are hereby screwed. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, pursuant to provisions, blah, 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 produce the documents identified in the attached Schedule A at the offices of blah, blah, blah. And here's the deadline. Very clear. And it doesn't mean, you can do this, but it doesn't mean walking up, okay, here's the document you're looking for. It's 10:01. We're good. I mean, you're just going to get it in the mail. You're going to you have proof of service attached, and that's how strict it is. It's not as crazy as you might think. They had a footnote. Where's the footnote? To arrange, so here you go. Almost like I know what I'm doing. To arrange electronic production of the requested documents, please contact Attorney Aaron Rosenberg, blah, blah, blah. So in this day and age, save the paper. It's easier to do it electronically if there's a method by which to do it. If not, call them. Ask them what's the best way for you. And this comes basically through David Seligson's office. Obviously, we know Alan Jackson is on board as well, but he's kind of busy with a few other matters in California. Okay, so and when the time is right, we're definitely going to have him on and chat about, obviously we're talking about the Rob Reiner and Michelle Reiner case in which their own son is accused of their murders. Something else they do in Massachusetts, see all these definitions? And again, this is done because people over time have abused the discovery process. That's really why it's here. So they might argue about, a request for documents. Well, what does that mean? What in California, what we would do is we would say something like, please provide all writings as that term is defined in evidence code section, blah, blah, blah. Rather than regurgitating all of the actual words, we would make the reference to the code section. They like the words in Massachusetts. So they basically are writing out everything that probably is included in their evidence code. So a document is everything: CD-ROMs, tapes, worksheets, drawings, graphics. It's not just, it's not just a document. The term concerning, I mean, they really get into it. The term concerning means referring, relating, describing, evidencing, constituting. Communication, this is important here. Without limitation, any request that seeks communications is intended to include copies of such communications wherever they are stored, including physically, on a phone or other device, or in the cloud. Now, who would think that you get rid of a phone and the stuff still exists in the cloud? I think that's called the Proctor rule. And they reference iCloud. So, okay, instructions. Documents withheld. If any document is withheld under a claim of privacy or other protection, and this is where I alluded to this earlier today when I was out talking to my tree, and in civil cases, the latitude for discovery is broad. I can go outside this. It's even broader than that picture frame right there. It's broad. Anything designed to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence. Anything. Okay? Now you may say, well, that's irrelevant, or that doesn't matter. It's not being provided to walk it straight into trial. It's being provided so that the party asking can use that to go, you can call it a fishing expedition if you want, because that's technically what it is. Not allowed to this degree in criminal matters, but in civil matters, it is. There's a lot more back and forth. Most cases resolve as a result of discovery in civil cases, whether it's depositions, document requests, interrogatories, requests for admissions, any of those things. That's just the way it works, and it's to prevent ambush, really, at the time of trial. So with these requests, they know it's wide open, and an objection, if any document is withheld under a claim of privilege or other protection so as to aid the court, the parties hereto to determine the validity of the claim or privilege or other protection, please provide the following information. You notice it doesn't say if you're arguing that it's irrelevant. You can't. That's not a proper objection for discovery in civil cases, because if it is irrelevant, but it might lead to the discovery of admissible evidence, you get to take a look at it. So privilege is the key objection in civil cases like this, whether it be it's attorney-client privilege, it's work product privilege, it's some sort of security issue, because we're talking about cops' records and things. So I can anticipate they're going to argue that somehow it's protected under some sort of law enforcement need. I'm not sure what they might come up with, but I get the feeling it's going to be something like that, or it's going to be an ongoing investigation, probably a classic one, right? Because we know Sergeant Not So Good is involved in this investigation right now that relates, we think, to how the Karen Reed case was investigated. So if you are going to say privilege, they need the ID of the person who prepared the document, who signed it, whose name's on it, because they have a right then to dispute that it's privileged. So you got to tell them all of this information. The identity of the person to whom it was directed, substance of the document, the date of the document, the identity of the person who has custody or control, the identity of the person who's to whom copies were furnished. Now, why is that important? If I have something and I'm claiming attorney-client privilege, but I gave it to a third party, well, I've just blown open the attorney-client privilege. That I've waived that by giving it to a third party. I don't mean to an associate attorney or a law clerk or paralegal, all part of the team. That's fine. But if I give it to my neighbor, going to love this, and I give it to my neighbor, well, I've blown and waived that privilege, so I can't use that. The basis on which any privilege or protection is claimed, whether any non-privileged or non-protected matter is included in the document. So there's a redaction issue there. You can get a document that has maybe some stuff that's legit, but redacting the part that is, for whatever reason, a privilege. Partial production. If you object to a particular request or portion, you must produce all documents called for, which are not subject. Common sense, right? This is all being teed up here so that when you stand in front of the judge, you can tell him what you have, him or her, what you have or have not complied with, what you intend to or do not intend to comply with. Okay? Orderly response. Yeah, just, don't give them a box and say, yeah, it's all in there somewhere. I mean, come on. Construction and or, using the words and or shall be construed both conjunctively and disjunctively. So, language is important, and or is almost always used when you ask for materials. Singular and plural forms. Singular may include plural and vice versa. Again, don't get nitpicky and say, oh, you asked for any document, so I can't give you any. There's probably more, but you only asked for a document. How do we know which one that is? No, don't pull that crap. Format, let's see, for all documents stored in electronic format, produce these documents in their electronic native form with all metadata intact. And this is a new wrinkle. I mean, when I say new, I mean within the last 5, 6 years, 7 years. It just, it's a new thing, because so much stuff now is kept electronically that it's probably more often than not going to be stored originally in electronic form. It may be ultimately printed out, phone logs, etc. But you have to realize that the original form is most important because you can't hide the metadata. What case would there be that the metadata was stripped off of? I can't. It doesn't come to mind at the moment. Supplementation required. To the extent you obtain possession, custody, or control of a document that is responsive to these requests after you make your production in response to these requests, you must supplement that initial production with newly acquired documents. Somebody had asked in, I think it was a comment when I mentioned that we were going to talk about this tonight. And they said, well, why are they even asking for some of this stuff? Well, the reason is very simple. They think it exists or want to know whether or not it exists. But importantly, if you get a response that says there are no documents responsive to your request, and then you, through independent sources, find documents that are very clearly responsive to that request, you throw it in the other party's face, and you can use it even at the time of trial, if it goes to trial, to suggest that they were trying to mislead the other side because we specifically asked calendars for this particular period. They said there aren't any. Well, here they are. So you can use it for impeachment, and it's important. It's very important. Here's a question. Sometimes I see these, and as Linda and Missy both know, most of the time I don't. What happens now that Goode has not complied? Well, that's what this motion is for, Landon's_Nana. I hope Landon's doing well. So you got to bring a motion. That's the bottom line. And it's always kind of a dance between the parties as to, some of it has to do with their relationship. Some of it has to do with their professionalism. Do you do it right away? Like this stuff was due on November 15th, right? And here we are. This motion was filed December 29th, okay? So was that because everybody was just too busy? Was that because they were having some attempts behind the scenes to respond? Not according to one of the first sentences in this motion, which said they haven't even reached out at all. A lot of times it's because you're too damn busy. I mean, if you're running a law office, if you're in the midst of, you're juggling, 60 cases, that may be an exaggeration. But let's just say, depending on the complexity of a case, you got a lot of them going on. There's a lot of stuff happening. And sometimes things that aren't, the court hasn't imposed a date which you're working to reach. That's number one. You've got a little flexibility. They don't waive their right to get this material because they waited 4 weeks after the due date. That's at a certain point you could be pushing it, but in my opinion, 4 weeks, no, not at all. Especially when you've got Thanksgiving slammed in there. So I do think they're going to make a big deal of the fact that, according to this, nobody ever reached out. Nobody from the plaintiff's side said, "Oh yeah, well, we're going to answer that," or "We're not going to answer that." Right? Let's see. I'm just cruising for a second here while I'm in this pile. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. If you do have a question, and if you put, little question marks or Q's or something, if they haven't been moved over into the question pile, I will call it. It's easy to find if they haven't been moved over. Okay. So, document requests. Here we go. Are you ready? And then we can start speculating as to what they're looking for and how it fits into the mix. All documents and we know what that means, video, right? But it's repeated here. Video or audio recordings and communications, including, but not limited to, emails, text messages, other forms of instant messages. So what? Signal? Well, those disappear, darn it. WhatsApp, any of that stuff. To, from, or concerning Karen Reed or any of her family members, heirs, assigns, employees, contractors, agents, attorneys, or other representatives. That's a lot of boilerplate. Most of that is all boilerplate in terms of describing what they're looking for and who it might come from. So the key is anything concerning Karen Reed and her family members. That's what they're looking for. Now, there's always a chance to argue, hey, this is vague and ambiguous and overburdensome because that the universe is broad. Well, what I would do to refine this, and let me make sure it hasn't been refined. Yeah, I would refine it as to time. I would say, okay, can you really ask for Karen Reed and her family members' communications forever? No. So I would probably say from January 29, 2022, which we know is the date of the incident, into the morning of the 30th, through, gosh, I'd even say through April of 2025, maybe even later, maybe even to present. Start there. That to me is a reasonable trim. So I would do that. And I think this is somewhat objectionable just on that ground, and easy to fix, though. Not a big deal. And I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't narrow it down. Because prior to the date of the incident, unless you can show some sort of prima facie evidence that there was some, and I'm just spinning my wheels here, I guess you might be able to argue that there was pre-existing relationships that would give you insight into the parties' interactions with Karen Reed and how that might impact what they did after the incident. And there's an argument, but you're still going to have to trim that back. Maybe you can get a month or two before it happened, but that's going to be I think that's going to be an issue they're going to talk about. All documents, video or audio recordings, communications, including but not limited to, blah, 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 concerning the 2021 black Lexus leased by Karen Reed as of January 28th. Now that's going to be, let's just say the Sally Port stink. It's going to relate to anything and everything that they have from the moment they took possession of that vehicle to really the moment they returned it, which wasn't all that long ago, when it was filled with rat pee or some sort of urine smell. Again, they might want to limit this a little bit in terms of how far that extends, but again, fixable. And otherwise, how could it be objectionable? All documents, video or audio recordings and communications, including but not limited to emails, text messages, blah, 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 concerning or referring to the death of John J. O'Keefe III. Okay, so let's think about that. And who we're asking it from? Sergeant Goode, right? So we're asking really for his file and his recollection, whether he's kept them or knows where they are. He's going to have to respond to that. He was one of the first on the scene, as I recall. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was one of the first on the scene. So that one may be a smaller pile, but certainly there's something's in there. Number 4, all documents, et cetera, concerning John O'Keefe II, Paul O'Keefe, or Margaret O'Keefe from January 1, 2021 to the present. Now, it's interesting, they picked dates here that they could have put in maybe the first request, but they put it in here. And this is information back and forth between the O'Keefes, they're obviously the plaintiffs, and connections with Sergeant Goode. So why would they have anything? What they're trying to establish here is a connection, a relationship of some sort that predated the incident. And we know from Canton, Stoughton, Dedham, the Triangle of Terror, that there's a lot of inbreeding going on there. There's a lot of incestuousness. And I don't mean that in the bloodline context. I mean, everybody knows everybody, for better or worse. And because of that, there could be connections between these folks prior to the date of the incident. They're going back 1 year prior. And I think that's a reasonable period. We'll see. All documents, video, audio recordings, et cetera, Let me see what concerning Brian Albert. This would be the House defendants if we were talking about the civil rights case now in federal court. Brian Albert, Cole Albert, Chris Albert, Julie Albert, Colin Albert, Brian Higgins, Jennifer McCabe, Matthew McCabe, Allison McCabe, Carrie Roberts, or any other individuals present on the date of the incident, or any interviews, meetings, conversations, or encounters with such individuals, again, from January 1, 2021 to the present, to see if there is some history of connection with these key players and Sergeant Goode. I can hear SIM cards snapping and being thrown in dumpsters already. Let's see. 6, all documents, video or audio recordings, etc., concerning Stephen Seraph from January 28, 2022. I get all these names confused. I'll be brutally honest with you here, but I think, wasn't he one of the investigators? Somebody help me. Somebody helped me remind me of the Seraph dude. I didn't get a chance to double check him before I put this together. That's why I'm wearing a hat. That's where I'm going to kind of cash today. I got behind the 8 ball. Let's see. I'm seeing if anybody can help me out with that. Oh, look. Oh, it's good. Good to hear that Landon is good. Just turned 10. That is a great age before they turn evil and come back. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it is. And Sheila with the suggestion here, put the question marks in there because I'm just I can't see that well. Things are popping by. Okay, nobody recalls. Why can't I remember who he was? For some reason, I feel like he was like an independent dude, independent investigation guy. I'm gonna look. Bear with me here just a second. I'm doing the homework I should have done earlier. Did I mention there was a tree I had to take down? First officer from the Canton PD to arrive on the scene. Okay. And by the way, that's a different guy. I'm looking further down. It says Stephen Seraph obituary. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. That's a different guy. Anyway, so first on the scene. That's the dude. So looking for information from him, dating actually, the date of the incident to the present. 7, all documents, video, recordings, etc., concerning Michael Lank. We know Lank. We know that whole story. We know the whole story about the meetup at the elementary school parking lot, and all of that. So makes perfect sense as to why they'd be looking for that information. Now, it's possible that Sergeant John Goode doesn't have this stuff, that somebody else, in the department does, but so what? It doesn't hurt to ask. Why would you not ask, right? Why would you not ask? There we go. First at the scene with the dash cam. Thank you, Crack is whack. I agree. I appreciate that. All documents, video or audio recordings, communications concerning Kevin Albert. Okay, so it's interesting. I'm looking through a little bit down the road here. Yeah, I'm surprised there's not effectively that same question for all of the players that we are familiar, the names we've heard. Just for the sake of completeness, ask for all of them, from Brian Albert, from Kevin Albert, from Colin, etc. Just ask for the same exact thing. Just cut and paste it and change the name. 9, forensic examination and copying all cellular or smartphones which you used either personally. Wait a minute, do they use personal cell phones in Canton PD? That's not likely. Or professionally at any time from January 1, 2021 through the present. So again, predating the incident, to find out, if you looked at, we know that Proctor's phone, Michael Proctor, remember that guy? Former trooper. If we looked at his phone that he thought was cleaned up, he had 13 months of crap stored up in there, and hundreds and thousands of really incriminating text messages and pictures, et cetera, et cetera. So why wouldn't some of the other folks on the force be dual phoning? Professional, personal, professional, personal. I get them confused. And once they've used that personal for business, it's going to become discoverable. All documents, video or audio, concerning 34 Fairview Road. So anything in which they've mentioned the address, okay? That's got to be a pretty finite number, you would think. You would think. So I don't think that's objectionable for any reason. All documents, video or audio recordings, etc., concerning any dog, oh, Chloe, any dog owned, kept, or fostered by any member of the Albert family. So that'd be very interesting to get a sense of Chloe's history, at least for that 1 year prior to the incident, and maybe there were other dogs. I would also want to know about the history with Chloe. Give me her history of bites, either of strangers, of family members. What does that look like? Because we know there are stories that she didn't like really anybody except the immediate family, which may have led to what happened to John O'Keefe that night. All documents, video or audio recordings, communications, including but not limited to emails, text messages, other forms, relating to in any way to the death of John J. O'Keefe III. Okay. Now, is the Sarge going to have those things? That's pretty broad. But looking at Mr. Goode's participation, that in and of itself is going to narrow the focus. Because they want anything and everything this guy had to do with the inspection, investigation, post-investigation, anything. And I think they're going to get it. All documents, video or audio recordings, communications concerning Michael Proctor. Bum, bum, bum. So we'll find out if, in fact, Sean Goode was in Michael Proctor's text chain anytime between January 28th and the present. I can't imagine what kind of stuff is going back and forth with these guys after the second trial ended in an acquittal. I'd be shocked. I'm sure. Because I don't think they're smart enough to stop doing it. That's the bottom line. All documents, video concerning Brian Tully. Okay. So now we're getting all this information. We're requesting it from all the cops involved that would have, you would think, communications with Sean Goode. Kelly Dever. Never say Dever. It is Dever, though. Kelly Dever. Sorry. All documents, again, from January 28th. She's going to have probably not a heck of a lot. I think we know all that she has to offer. And I doubt there's anything that she's got to add in terms of actual documentation. But got to ask. Kevin was covering all stuff about Big. Big? Is Big Hig? Is that Big? 17. Who are we looking for here? This is, now it starts to get very personal with Sergeant Goode's current situation. All documents, video, audio concerning your conduct as a sergeant, officer, or other employee of the Canton PD from January 1, 2021 through the present. There's going to be major objections to that based on the ongoing investigation. But that doesn't matter. Even if there could be an in-camera review where the court looks at it and decides who gets to see what. They could seal it, but provide it. So there are ways around it. But you got to ask. That starts the ball rolling. Then you got to see what the response is. At this point, hey, Commonwealth, no response. Of course. Let's see. Mr. Monk's understand. Are they asking for phone logs between Goode and Chloe? That's funny. Why not? All they can say is there aren't any. There are no documents responsive to your request. And then if Chloe were to somehow come back from the dead. 18. All documents concerning the town of Canton's independent investigation into allegations of misconduct which resulted in or preceded you being placed on administrative leave by the CPD as described in the media report available. This is also kind of a newer wrinkle to discovery where you throw, and Aidan Carney knows this better than most, streaming online posts, in this case, apparently from WCVB, a media report. All documents concerning allegations of misconduct against you, which led you to be placed on administrative leave. And here's another media report from WCVB. You may look at those on your at your own leisure. And then this is just proof of service. Here's the affidavit by Stephen Minkowski. He's with a company called Allstate Constables. You have a number of ways you can serve stuff. You can do it, if you have a small claims case, you're probably not going to pay somebody to serve the person you're suing. So you can send it by certified registered mail, return receipt is the best way to do it. Or you can hire somebody. You can hire the sheriff. In this case, this constable, these are certainly folks that are authorized. Where is it here? Yeah, all state constables. They're licensed by the state to just serve. That's what they do all day. Serve papers on people. Fun job. So that's the deal. That's what they're looking for. You get a sense of this guy is going to be a wealth of information, I would think. And I'm waiting for all of the objections that relate to the ongoing investigation now that threatens to remove him from his job permanently. We know that he's on good old-fashioned administrative leave at the moment, right? Okay, let's see. Let me go through a couple more here. Well, we got a minute or two. Yeah, I noticed this is not a typical question, but Joey Kane's a friend of the channel and has been a very regular and strong supporter, and he's kind of taking a break. And I don't blame him. I think a break from the social media every now and then is not a horrible idea. Okay, let's see. Okay, from 10-year-old Landon, mom, or Nana, sorry. Can Goode get to anything in the Canton PD since he's been suspended and banned? Well, it's not like if they send it to him, he has an obligation to go to the police, PD, and scour their stuff. This is for him, his personal, he's got it in his control and custody, okay? If it is, if I were responding to this, pick any of the questions. I might say, see attached documents responsive to request number 6. However, there may be additional materials in the possession of the Canton Police Department. Just cover it that way. That way, if you've given them 10 things, turns out there are 20, and the other 10 come from the PD. If I'm representing Sean Goode, that protects him. It doesn't look like he's trying to hide anything. He's saying, look, here's what I've got, but there may be other sources for this information like Canton PD. Half of responding to discovery is not painting yourself in a corner, so that you can get nailed. Thank you, Daisy, so much. Thank you, Daisy Rain Tarot. Okay. I appreciate that. And Linda, we're not sure what's happening the rest of the week, to be honest. I think New Year's Day, probably down. I should be in mourning today after my Rams were so pathetic last night. Oh my gosh. But I knew it. And I'm telling people that. I said, do not be swayed by these pontificators who are anointing, Stafford as MVP. And the last 2 games, he has looked horrible. Anyway, so I mentioned that because January 1st is always big college football, right? So we'll probably take that day off. And then Friday, she may be doing a show without me. We haven't really worked it out. I've got a commitment that I am going to remain committed to. So let's see. Leaf blower footage, personal iPhone. That's right, crack is whack. That's these people. This is what happens when you're in a tiny town, right? And you think, A, you're untouchable, and B, nothing you ever do inappropriately, less than professionally, is ever going to see the light of day. That's it. You feel like you're a Teflon. Lindum 9600, thanks for the gift membership. Oh, there you go. I will listen as I'm driving. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year. What do you think? You have good thoughts about the new year to come? I mean, as you look back on 2025, are you glad it's over? Are you, looking forward to something more promising in 2026? I think it was a pretty good year. some good things took place. We kind of settled in here at Justice Served TV to try to figure out what we're doing. Still working on it. We definitely don't have it perfected yet. We're working on it. What a horrible Rams game. Yes, it was brutal. And the funny thing is, when I would talk them down, and I'm a typical fan. I've been a fan of theirs forever. I've been to every Super Bowl they've gone to, and some were brutally embarrassing. 3 points against the Patriots. Oh my God. Anyway, I would talk them down. Like they are not as good as people are suggesting. So when I see something like last night, I'm like, I told you. To make it interesting, because of the defense. That's how it became interesting. If anybody saw it, block field goal attempt return for a touchdown, that'll help. But then Stafford goes right on, throws an interception. Anyway, I digress. They'll still be in the playoffs, and I think if they win next week, they will go to Carolina instead of Philly, which I guess is a plus. But how do you go from leading the NFC? They were going to be the number one seed. All they had to do is hold a 16-point lead against Seattle at the 8-minute mark of the fourth quarter. Well, if you can't do that, and they didn't, then you don't deserve it. I'm sorry, you don't. I'm not that kind of fan. I'm very honest, and I love them, but man, they could break your heart. Let's see. Okay, that was a good question. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Tucker's mom, 123. Again, Linda will be back Friday. I'm going to wrap this thing up. We're going to do a members tomorrow at 10 a.m. And I really just want to get into, it'll be a flashback moment to look at the updated lawsuit that I have against Massachusetts State Police. We'll go back to April 1st, look at the incident that spurred that lawsuit, and then we'll look at the crowd that was there on day of verdict, because that truly was the result of that lawsuit. It's if not for one, then the other would never have happened. And so what little part I may have played, I'm very excited that was done. So now that lawsuit continues, even though the goal of the lawsuit to open up the buffer zone, we did it. It's still alive. It's still moving forward. So it's kind of personal to me. So I'm going to get into that with you tomorrow. Anyway, let's see if I've got a couple more here. Okay. Answered that. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm gonna amazing smelling tree. How did they do that? How did the good Lord do that? And what I found out too, if you do cedar closet, cedar chest, after a while the smell goes away. It just the wood kind of seals itself somehow. If you rough it up, bam, you have that amazing smell all over again. Okay, thanks for joining. Appreciate it. We will continue to follow this. There is no date. In California, when you file a motion, they give you a date, and it goes right on the front page of the motion. Everybody knows right from the very start when it is, what the deadlines are. There will be a response to this. We will get into it when it happens. There will be a hearing date at some point, and hopefully it is not a Zoom, but we'll be on it no matter what, and you know that. So in the meantime, I'm Michael Bryant. Hey, have a great evening. This is New Year's Eve, and of course, try to do the right thing.